And welcome to the Verity Masterclass. For today's session, we're really excited to be going over some of the tips and tricks, as well as at the end, we'll kind of show off some really cool workflows using some third-party softwares that we feel will really help with the Verity workflows. So before we get into today's session, a couple little housekeeping rules first. So number one, participants will be muted during today's session. The second is please do ask questions via the GoToWebinar control panel. That rolls into point number 3. Questions will be answered. We'll have a whole Q&A section at the end where we'll take any questions that people ask throughout the webinar, and we'll make sure those are answered. Number 4, for today's webinar, this is going to be recorded, and we'll be sending out the link to the recording after today's session. That way everyone will have that as a record. So who are your wonderful presenters for today? You have myself. So I'm Trevor. I'm the product manager over here at ClearEdge. A couple fun facts about myself is I primarily oversee the product roadmap for both Verity and Edgewise. So any features or anything, do let me know that you would like to see in the software. Today, or this year, will mark over 10 years at ClearEdge. And then after work, usually I make a beeline to the climbing gym where you can find me after hours scrambling up boulders. I'm also joined by Jordan. Jordan, might tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, yeah, I'm Jordan. I work on our software products in testing and QA, in training, and in support. I have been doing that for just over 3 years here at ClearEdge as of about a month, actually exactly a month ago. And my fun fact, as you can see, is that I know that secret cane sauce recipe, but I'm not telling.
Yep, perfect. And so both of us will be your presenters for today's webinar, and we'll kind of guide you through the fun tips and tricks we have for basically getting the most out of your Verity workflows. So a little bit about today's agenda and what we'll be going through. So number 1, PDF reports. Jordan and our wonderful applications engineers, they released with conjunction with our development team, last week, Jordan, is when we popped out the new Verity release, I think. Yeah.
Yep, the end of last week.
Yep. And that Verity release has some brand new PDF field reports, and we'll do a bit of a deep dive into what those look like. Then we'll kind of focus on a little bit more of the standard curriculum of Verity. So doing things like, getting your project set up, some scan data best practices. One of the ones that I really always like to tell people is actually working with mobile or unified data inside of Verity. Then we'll talk a little bit about the actual, how do you get the most out of your analyses? So, utilizing search sets in Navisworks, analysis by ActiveView and Revit, a little bit of annotation tagging. That's one that I'm especially excited about. We have some really cool little annotation tags. Updating the model to the as-built position. This is a big one, especially for GCs or general contractors doing clash detection and coordination inside of Navisworks. For some of the emerging capabilities, we have the new Power BI connection for Autodesk. This is one that is incredible to use with Verity for building interactive Power BI dashboards. And then another unique one we have is actually Collage Web. So Collage Web is actually a Topcon product that has a lot of synergy with Verity for taking the Verity results, pushing them up to a web-based platform, and that way those can be distributed out to different teams. And we'll talk about some of the emerging capabilities at the end, and then once we kind of wrap all that up, then we'll go into our little QA session. So, brand new Verity field reports. I'm really excited about this one. This is basically was created with a bunch of user feedback. Both Jordan and myself, we work with a lot of customers, taking in user feedback and basically saying like, hey, how can we improve these reports? What are some of the things people want? So one of the biggest ones from users was grid locations. Basically, how do I find my element on site? So one of the new things we've added to the report is basically the grid intersections. So that way users can quickly say, hey, this is located, this distance off of this grid to quickly find the element on site. Another one is the translation values, changing those so they're a little bit more in project terms. So we got the total translation, which is how far the element is moved out of spot or out of tolerance in the worst spot. And then it breaks that number down into the northing, easting, and elevation values for that transform. Another key one is the element IDs. So we got the Revit ID, the Navisworks ID, and the IFC GUID information. That is now all included in the report if those ID informations are present in the host element. The reason we did that is because that allows users to very quickly go through, take that element ID information, and basically that way they can track down the element in the host application. And then one of the big ones, and again, thank you, Jordan, for these lovely report right here, screenshots. So Verity will now, in the report, basically take screenshots from the host application. So it's not just the screenshots inside of Verity. So the way we have it set up is using WYSIWYG. So what you see is what you get. So for example, if a user has the walls hidden or the point cloud turned off, that is what will be displayed in the screenshots, however you kind of set up the view. So this kind of gives users the ability to kind of set things up a little bit, and then Verity will take the top-down screenshot and then a screenshot kind of like at an angle, and those will be included in the reports. So a little bit more of a deep dive right there. So this is where you can see, this is the report. The one screenshot I'm not showing is the report now also includes a title page with a big Verity logo where you can set the project name and location. Jordan, anything you would like to add on, talking a little bit about the Verity reports from your side of things?
Yeah, just high level, all of the information on these reports are meeting a need that we've heard from Verity users for a long time, which is, Verity gives a ton of very excellent information that would be hard to collect as a human at the same speed. But making that information actionable has always been something where, Verity had opportunities to help someone take action on these items, whether it's in an as-built model to make corrections, whether it's on site to make corrections, ensuring that things are clash detected again after we get them into the correct spot, things like that. These field reports are a really great source of information to make all of the Verity information more actionable more quickly. So very exciting.
Yeah, we got some really cool things planned over the next few months for some future releases on kind of what we want to do with the reports. Again, I do want to stress that is something, one of the big points of user feedback we've taken is having these actionable reports. It's critical for construction QA/QC as well as verification workflows to have those reports back to the relevant stakeholders. So again, really excited, really happy what we just released. So again, really excited to see what you guys as our users think about these new reports. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about kind of the main kind of portion for today's webinar, which is actually taking a look and working in kind of some tips and tricks for working with Verity. So Jordan, do you want to kick us off with some of the project setup best practices?
Yeah, sure thing. So a lot of these are very high level, but all of them also very impactful on how smoothly a Verity analysis is completed and reviewed and taken action on. That top one, host files locally. This one's a big one, cutting out the network connection speeds, the possibility of a network connection loss in the middle of analysis. Both of those are huge factors in, again, the speed of completing the analysis. You don't add an additional set of communication that needs to happen, as well as just an overall smoother process with all of your results on disk where we want them to be to take action.
Yep. And I know this also, I know a lot of people out there like using like OneDrive, and I believe, just with all the file syncing and everything, that can cause some rather interesting behaviors with Verity. So we do want to kind of remove anything from that into more of a local drive that's not corrected or connected to OneDrive, right, Jordan?
Yep.
Perfect.
Right.
Yep. And what about like running the analysis on the NWCs?
Yeah, so one of Navisworks' strengths as a program is that you can bring in geometry files from just about any other CAD or BIM program in many different formats, and those different formats for the most part do work in Verity. However, Verity is set up to read geometry in the way that NWC files specifically are set up to display that geometry. So saving external geometry files like IFC or STEP, RVT files, OBJ files, whatever the case is, saving those geometry files as an NWC file and appending them that way into the NWF can really smooth out the Verity process again, ensures that Verity knows exactly how to read the geometry correctly, and gives you a faster process as well.
Perfect. Now a little bit about, this is one of my favorite topics, which is the shared coordinate system and how to align geometry to the point cloud. You mind talking about this one? Because I think this is a big one.
Yeah, this is certainly a big one. And part of this is going all the way back to planning out collecting your scans in the first place, scanning on control. But Verity is going to compare points and geometry according to how those things are overlaid in the host model space. So if the point cloud is not aligned just right to the model, not necessarily to where the model is exactly in place with the point cloud. That's what Verity's here to ensure. But in making sure that your point cloud isn't rotated 90 degrees from where your model is or transformed at different values than what your model is, ensuring that the overlay of those two things is correct ensures that the Verity information is also correct on the back end.
Yep, and to everyone, I know this is one of the big things everyone likes to ask is like how accurate is a Verity analysis? So I always like to tell people there's three main sources of error. There's the instrument error itself. Number two is the registration error, like the scans fitting together. And lastly is that coordinate error, i.e. how well do the point cloud and the model actually align together. So whatever one is the biggest one, that's usually the one that I would say that Verity is good to. So let's just say for purely demonstration sake, like 1 centimeter, then your Verity analysis would be accurate to 1 centimeter because that's our largest error value. But again, really want to harp on that shared coordinate, that alignment directly affects how accurate the Verity result ends up being. So. But once we get everything run, then we basically it's time for the human to actually step in. So why don't you tell us about that next point, if you don't mind, Jordan?
Sure. Yeah. So Verity, just like pretty much any algorithm, you're going to want human review on the back end, ensure that the algorithms are the algorithm results are not only correct but meet the needs of your project, whether that's reporting information for a client, action taken, etc. in the field. The Verity analysis itself, if you can analyze an entire model inside of Verity, you finish hundreds of thousands of elements, that's still saving you a whole ton of time as far as actually QA/QCing your model or your installations. But can a human actually go through and review hundreds of thousands of results in a manner that's effective? So our recommendation here, as far as a very popular question, is how much can I throw at Verity? Can I throw my entire model in? You could, but focusing on limiting your analyses to a specific discipline or a specific room, a specific level, whatever is going to be human reviewable and human actionable, those are going to give you the most effective Verity results in terms of then taking action on those results that you get.
Yeah, and I think this is a big one, putting a little time up front to kind of organize and get things ready before bringing it over into Verity instead of just say chucking in the whole MEP model in there. Because in addition to like the pipe runs, we also might get these little, for whatever reason, like little inserts, might get a couple hundred of those, and those elements just don't have enough point cloud data on them anyways, and so Verity usually flags them as either not founds or uncertains. So that's basically extra work that I then have to do on the back end of kind of checking through and reviewing my elements. So again, really focusing on put a little bit of time up front, make your selection sets, make things that way you're grabbing the elements that you want. And that way, back on the back end, when I'm actually reviewing it, it makes it a lot easier for me, again, to actually perform my QA/QC. And now my absolute favorite one to talk about, and this one I do have some fun stories for that one, which is model accuracy. Jordan?
Yeah, so just like these points here show, when Verity finds a true as-built fit according to the point cloud, what we're doing is matching the shape of the surface of the geometry that you have in your model to the shape of the points that we can see in the Verity analysis as well. So if those two shapes don't mostly match, Verity is going to have a tough time comparing apples to oranges. It's going to have a tough time fitting a round peg into a square hole. The more accurately the shape of your model geometry is representing the true shape that is going to be collected in the point cloud, the more correctly Verity will be able to find you your true as-built fit by being able to more easily match the points that we're seeing to the geometry that's modeled.
Yep. And there is some wiggle room, like for example, like a pipe hanger. If it's modeled, say like 6 inches, but scan data shows it's like a foot, then Verity can say, hey, it's found, like whatever. But yeah, if there are some pretty significant discrepancies, and not saying that ever happens on a construction site, and all our Revit models are absolutely perfect and representing of real life, but if the case does happen, again, kind of one of the big ones we see is, for example, if it's like a square column, but what was, actually scanned as a cylinder, that's when we can start getting issues with fitments and stuff like that. So again, we do want to make sure that whatever we are trying to analyze against the point cloud is representative, or roughly has a higher LOD, so that way Verity can actually get a good fit against the cloud. But everyone's BIMs are perfect, and we never have to deal with that. But so, all right. So now a little bit about the other portion, which is the actual scan data itself. What's going into Verity. So I guess let's talk a little bit about the right scanner for kind of what we're doing, and this is more going to be kind of tripod-based data versus SLAM data, for example. Jordan?
Yeah, so choosing the right scanner and the right scanner settings for the interest of your verification project. If you are going to be verifying wall placement, large object placement, something that you can both collect plenty of points on and has plenty of surface area as modeled geometry, something like that, mobile scanning is totally fine. The additional noise that's inherent to mobile scans not going to have a significant impact on the Verity results for objects that large. On the other hand, if we are talking about looking to verify 2-inch conduit, something as small as nuts and bolts, those types of things are, with their very small size, they're going to be significantly impacted by scan noise in that region. If we're talking about a handheld mobile scanner that's collecting bolts on the floor, there's a possibility we don't see enough points to even identify where that bolt should be. So ensuring that the scanner's capability matches the level of accuracy that you need in your Verity verification will help a good deal on the back end.
Yep, and again, really excited. We've seen a lot of advancement in SLAM technology over the years. So I'm sure, give it a little bit and the SLAM scanners will be popping out, data that's, just comparable to the tripod-based scanners. But at the moment, with some of the current technologies and just what's out there, we do want to be aware of, if you're trying to verify, say conduits, for example, that might be still a case where we want to break out the tripod-based, tripod-based scanner. So, and tell us a little bit about coverage, how the coverage actually affects the Verity analyses.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that when Verity is finding the true as-built fit in the analysis, we're looking at the shape of the modeled element against the shape of the points that are present. Just like the accuracy of the shape of the model element can affect that matching in Verity, the presence at all of points in that shape can also affect that from the other side. So if we need to verify, again, a square column, but we have only collected points on one face of that square column, Verity is probably going to succeed in fitting one face correctly, but it's not going to know how to align any of the other three faces properly. So we may be missing things like rotation, horizontal shift, things like that would have been shown had we collected two faces of surface points for that column. But again, if we're comparing point shape to model shape, and one of those two things is incorrect or missing information, Verity is going to have to fill in the best it can, and it's going to result in something you may have to verify more closely in the human review portion of that workflow.
Yep, and again, more data, more accurately we can fit. Doesn't have to be more dense data, but definitely having more coverage. That way we can fit more of the faces against the point cloud. And if not, as Jordan mentioned, during the QA/QC process, Verity does have a bunch of manual tools. It makes it really easy to go in and kind of do any manual fitment if you have to. So, and then one of the more interesting ones is RCP or RCS files.
Yep, so this one's pretty simple, particularly because both Navisworks and Revit as hosts for Verity are, for the most part, looking to see RCP or RCS formats anyway with the point clouds that are added there. These are exactly the file types that Verity is looking to read as well. We run points through, recap system to be able to read those correctly. So having your scan files in that format and appended or inserted that way to the host means easy communication with Verity as well.
Perfect. And now onto kind of that format about RCP and RCS. We have kind of one of the next big topics, which is basically working with unified versus non-unified data.
So everybody here and everybody that's ever worked with point clouds knows that as far as file types goes, point clouds are heavy. They can be hard to transfer, they can take a long time, they can take up a lot of space, et cetera, et cetera. It's very resource heavy to deal with point clouds in general. So the advantage of being able to take a fully structured terrestrial scan, something that still has individual scan information attached, as far as Verity is concerned, that type of scan is, the golden goose as far as accuracy. The terrestrial scanners are staying still while we're collecting points. They're collecting typically more points. We get a nice, dense, information-rich point cloud out of these. But again, they're very heavy because they're very information rich and very dense. The ability to then unify that scan, which does take out some of the information like scan locations, like normals, but also takes out a good deal of the file density, the file size of that scan, means that the speed increase that you're seeing with just handling unified versus fully structured scans also translates to Verity analysis. The unified workflow is really excellent as far as Verity is concerned because we have the cleanliness of point collection from the terrestrial scanner, but we have the unified, less dense scan file to work with and work through more quickly. We're not losing accuracy, but we are improving speed because of the lack of additional extra information. The other option, if you want to keep a fully structured point cloud, you want to know all of your individual scan locations, you still want that normal information involved in that scan, not a problem. Decimating that point cloud about at the 5 to 10 millimeter mark, at least to start. Maybe if it's very, very dense, you can go a little bit higher, but even decimating a full RCP point cloud can see a lot of speed improvement within Verity, just because the decimation, again, is not losing accuracy, but we are eliminating some of those extra points that maybe we don't need. You're still getting accurate results, but at a little bit better of a speed because Verity doesn't have to look through every single one of the 6 billion points in the point cloud. You can see the chart at the bottom shows just a very high level look at the timing difference. A steel framing that we completed, something that involved 13 scans originally, took just about an hour to verify in Verity. In that unified scan, verifying all 505 of those steel framing objects against the same point cloud, just unified into a flat file. That time difference you can see is very significant, brought us down to just under a quarter of an hour. Imagine checking 505 steel beams on site in 15 minutes. Wouldn't that be great? So yeah. Huge time savings just from moving from a fully structured, very dense point cloud file down to that unified file. Still get great accuracy, but huge speed improvements for the analysis.
Yep, so again, speed's the name of the game. Don't be afraid to unify your data. Also, that opens up some really cool stuff you can do where you can section out the point cloud first, pop out a unified RCS just for the region that you're trying to look at, and then per floor, per whatever you would like, and then run that using Verity to get your results in a little bit more of a kind of surgical fashion. But again, this is one that I'm very excited and I do really want to make sure more people know about, that for anyone who's trying to do mass quantities of information, unifying your data in Verity should give you a very big, significant speed increase. So now we got a little bit more to the interactive portion. So I'll turn it over the screen to Jordan. We'll talk a little bit about search sets in Navisworks, active views in Revit, some of the annotations, as well as updating the model to Gasville location. All right, so this is probably the most complicated part of today's webinar, which is the screen switch.
Did we do it?
Yep, we did it. Woo!
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. It looks like that's what we got on screen. We got Revit.
I just switched to Navisworks. Did it switch for you?
Yep, now we got Navisworks. Awesome.
Okay, perfect. So one of the sort of projects that streamline your analysis type tips that we have for today is utilizing internal functionality to Navisworks, to Revit, to make it a much simpler process to select or choose the items that you're going to add to a Verity analysis. Again, earlier we said it's a great idea for a Verity analysis to be focused to an area or a discipline, something that's going to be human reviewable. Maybe there are cases where your team is only interested in or responsible for verifying certain rooms, certain levels, certain disciplines. In those cases, when you start with an entire model of it can be hard to know how and where to start with adding these things to Verity to complete an analysis. You can see that the Navisworks selection tree system, this hierarchy here, is very robust. There are hundreds of thousands of items here. But if I'm only interested in analyzing the steel I-beams that are on level 2, or only need to verify the location of the hot water pipes, I could click through Navisworks and start building a selection of only those objects. But what's going to be a lot quicker and give you a lot more robust choices in deciding what goes in and what doesn't is going to be the search options, the find options tools inside of Navisworks. That find items tool can be popped out right from the home page. And what this does is give you the options for searching by properties, essentially. All of these Navisworks model items have, again, very robust property systems. There's tons of information inside of each of these elements as far as their properties go. We can use all of those properties to our advantage. Rather than having to pick through hundreds of thousands of items to find the ones that I want, I have to hide walls and roofs to be able to select my structural beams. I can use the find items search set here to find items that contains the word structural framing. Their layer is in level 2 and the name contains W because I only want my wide flange I-beams. Having that search set saved and ready to go means that I can simply click now to select all hundreds 180 of my steel I-beams that are on level 2, and I have these ready to add into Verity just like this with that selection ready to go. So again, I can eliminate very quickly that entire model down to just the pieces that I'm interested in, which might be the steel framing. It might be only the hot water pipes you need to analyze. You can do a similar search set here based on item types that are matching your pipe names, and the layer matches the hot water layer to ensure that those are the correct pipe types that I need to take a look at. Same thing for walls. A lot of these walls in this model have both an exterior portion, a core portion, and an interior portion. If I only need to verify the interior walls and interior doors at this stage, I can use a very simple search to look for items whose type contains interior under my architecture Navisworks or NWC, and all 35 of my interior architectures pieces selected here, and can very quickly add those to Verity and not have to dig through the rest of the model. The nice thing about search sets as opposed to saved selection sets, both work very well as far as setting things up for Verity, but the nice aspect of search sets is that because it's a search, if this model is updated to include additional geometry, your search will then include that additional geometry that still fits the parameters that you've selected in your search. So really nice and flexible. That's another of those. Take a little bit of time on the front end to set up a system like this so that when you're ready to go with Verity, you have all of your scans collected. And your project deadline is coming up, you can throw these different selections into Verity and have your analyses siloed to the information that is actually pertinent to your team or your client.
Yeah, no, and I think this is one of the ones that I'm guilty. I should definitely be using these a lot more instead of just control clicking multiple elements in like that. Again, I think the search sets are one of the most powerful tools, especially for helping narrow down to, hey, what are the items that are critical for my project that I want to actually verify inside of Verity. So again, I think this is one of the most important tools that, outside of Verity, again, is critical for just setting things up and again, helping with the actual analysis portion. So.
Yep, absolutely. And I do want to point out also on the back end of, once a Verity analysis has been completed, you can use this find items and search sets in the same way for Verity results. So if you want to set up a viewpoint where everything is hidden outside of the Verity not found items, or you want to set up a viewpoint where you're looking directly at any steel who have a vertical translation of more than 2 inches, properties that are in Navisworks to set those same searches up on the back end based on Verity properties rather than based on the item properties that you want to add to Verity. It's very powerful and in that direction as well.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jordan. Again, I think that's definitely something, especially, again, I learned Navisworks off of YouTube University. So kind of learning additional tips and tricks like this is only something that can make me better. So.
Absolutely. We have, thankfully, similar functionality available on the Revit side. So, as host programs, Navisworks and Revit, fairly different functionally. Navisworks is very robust in, different viewpoints, different information. All the properties are very easy to filter on. Revit, on the other hand, is very view-based. So what we've done in Verity for Revit is rather than needing to add by selection sets, which you still can do if you have selection sets saved in your Revit project, you can use those to add to Verity. But the secondary option here is to add to Verity by active view. So same story here. I have this model in front of me, but not all of it is my responsibility. I need to only focus on specific areas. Maybe I only need to check the framing objects, and I can just open this view, add only these framing objects into Verity for comparison. Maybe I only need to check one specific room. My HVAC guys are coming out to site tomorrow to install the ductwork. I need to ensure that the true installation location of these beams is not going to interfere with that duct going in tomorrow. I can add in just this little room of objects to ensure that nothing is going to clash tomorrow when they come out. Or if I even need to do something as simple as checking the orientation of valves, making sure that those have been positioned correctly on site so that they're accessible, not running into or obstructed by any other pieces of equipment. I can add in just my valve pieces here from this view, add in my point cloud, and again, I have all of that Verity information narrowed down to only the scope of what I actually need to deal with. This analysis is going to be very quick, very digestible, very easy to then come back to reporting options in Revit and utilize that information as well. Well, we have a couple different views open here. One other thing that we wanted to mention as far as Verity capabilities inside of your host programs, Revit's annotation tags. Revit can take a whole ton of information and Revit has great reporting options as well. So the wonderful thing about these Verity properties that we've pushed from our Verity analysis is that they shared parameter like any other. So they can be used to annotate these objects in a 2D or a 3D view, depending on your needs. I have a very simple tag set up here that's going to show me my conformance to tolerance, the horizontal translation and the vertical translation. I can also have it show any notes or action required from the Verity analysis. So having these Verity properties available even to use in annotation tags, again, makes setting up a reporting view very, very simple, gives you all the power of that Verity information to where it is actually usable, it's digestible. Someone doesn't have to look at a bunch of different translation or rotation information if all they truly need to know is whether there's horizontal translation to this object. The great thing about annotation tags as well is that they are pretty customizable. So if you want to have different Verity properties show, you can always edit this label to include the different Verity properties that are relevant to your reporting, whether that's the rotation, whether that's the XYZ location, whatever the case may be. Those are very simple to edit and beef up or slim down based on what Verity properties you include in that tag as well.
Yep, and I think this is one of the key critical ones because Revit is extremely powerful for creating reports and documentation. So using, pushing the Verity reports to like a view like this, using this to build a sheet that I can then use my little Verity tag to create my annotations on. That's one that I'm especially excited in because that way I can build some really awesome reports and popping that out to project teams to say, hey, look at what we got right now, or look at the status and all that. So again, very powerful, very, I want to say like an easy thing to do that can really add a lot of benefits for the reports, again, just with our little annotation tags. So if anyone wants that annotation tag, reach out after the webinar. Again, that should be no problem. We can probably pop that one over. So
yeah, definitely. And then let's talk about the last big one as far as the host program integration here, representing the Verity as-built fit. So Verity is finding true location of these model objects based on the point cloud, but how do we show that in the model? How do we represent that for the people that need to see it? And that is going to come in, that's one of probably only two areas where Verity for Revit and Verity for Navisworks are different from one another. In Revit, if we want to have the as-built location that Verity has found represented in the model, we can do so with an as-built copy of that object. So what we'll do is, rather than moving your Revit modeled object and potentially breaking connected systems or doing something of the sort, what we'll do is we'll take this I-beam, for example. you'll click one button or one hotkey inside of Verity, and Verity will create that as-built copy of this item at the true fit that was found by the Verity analysis. As you can see, all of the Verity information from the original object is still noted in the properties of this as-built copy. The main difference here is that this copy item is tagged in the Verity element type as an as-built copy, whereas the original is tagged as the as designed, which again means that you can now set up a view for only viewing Verity as-built objects, or create a filter inside of your current view to only show the as-builts. Anything like that, you now have your true as-built location represented. You have all of the same Verity information available on that object, and you have the ability to do even just a quick visual clash detection check, knowing that this beam, if it has moved 2 inches downward, we need to now recheck the HVAC clashing in that area. That's very simple to see very quickly based on this view that Verity has set up for us with that as-built copy.
Yep, and this is a really...
Navisworks, on the other hand...
Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
Sorry, go ahead, Trevor.
Yep, no, this is one I really want to highlight because, again, everyone wants the as-built inside of Revit. And so this is kind of a way that while we don't change the original model, we can create that in-place family, which is a copy showing the as-built location. Part of the reason is just there's some limitations, especially with connected systems, about moving those things around. But again, this is what we want to do is, place that as-built copy right there for dimensioning purposes and so on. So that way you have that directly inside of the BIM. So back to you, Jordan.
Yeah, so inside Navisworks, on the other hand, as our other host, because Navisworks is much more heavily used for clash detection workflows, things like that, and is much less sensitive about the movement of different objects, Navisworks, Navisworks will move the modeled object. It'll apply a transform to that object to put it into the true Verity as-built position. So again, just a click of a button, you can move that object into its true as-built location based on what Verity has seen from the points. And if the movement is significant enough, depending on your project requirements, again, you can now run an updated clash detection with the true installation location of these objects and know that the clash results and reporting is correct because the true installation location of these objects was represented when you run it. And so can significantly improve the accuracy of that clash detection workflow once you have the Verity as-built positions locked in.
Yep. And this is another very, very important one. Normally it's subtle and that you might see a beam just kind of do a little tweak or two, or like a pipe. It should not be, I would hope there would not be giant leaps like that, but sometimes it does happen. But yeah, no, this is a really key critical functionality, especially for making sure that we're always coordinating against the as-built for the most accurate conditions for clash detection coordination. So. Yeah, no, quite literally, this is what, one beam, but 600, 700 beams, click a button, and then you go from as designed to as built. It's, dare say, closest as you can get to an easy button for converting to as designed, as built. But sadly, right now, it's only limited to more inside of Navisworks.
All right, Trevor, I think I'm going to throw it back to you for some of our up and coming.
Let's see if I can do this as gracefully. Let's see, show screen 2. Excellent. So now let's talk a little bit about Power BI. So yeah, Power BI, I think a lot of people probably construction, we use it creating dashboards to show different pieces of information. So one of the really key things that I want to highlight is actually the new Autodesk Power BI connector. So inside of Power BI, this is, well, backing up, You can download the Power BI connector off the Autodesk App Store. It's completely available. I can drop a link here in a second, but that's basically what we're going to be using. And that allows us to connect to Autodesk Construction Cloud. From Autodesk Construction Cloud, we can pull in the information and basically use that to quickly build out a dashboard. So what we've done is we've already taken our Verity results. We pushed our color codes and our items from Navisworks or from Verity into Navisworks and or Revit, and then from there pushed those using the data exchange into the ACC environment. So that's basically what we've done before this point. So the first step for actually building out a report is we'll actually load in the data using the Autodesk Cloud Connector. So I'll just type in Autodesk. There's our new Power BI connector right there. I'll connect, and this will go through and basically allow me to actually grab the data directly off of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So there we have a few of our items right here. So I'll open this up. I'm just going to grab one of the ones I've done previously, like so. We'll just go with this one right there. Now, load in the data, and this will go ahead and take everything, pull it in from ACC into the Power BI ecosystem. This is also consequently the longest part of this whole process. So I got a nice lovely loading bar here for about 15 seconds. So say Libby. There we go, perfect. So now we can actually start building out our report now that we've got everything loaded in over here on the right-hand side. So the first thing I want to do is actually import one of my visuals. So this visual does come with the Autodesk Power BI connector. And what it is actually a 3D viewer. So I can link that in, come over here, I'll place that. And now let's actually kind of go ahead and start building out a report. So I'll walk you through the steps nice and easy. So the first thing we'll go ahead and do is in our data, we'll search for .viewer, drag that over into the viewer pane right there. And then once we do that, we'll grab our external element IDs. So I'll do external element ID 1 and 2. And now we have basically our viewer built in right there that I can navigate and work with. These are all the color codes and everything pushed from Verity into Navisworks. Now they're all present right here. So we don't just have the viewer, we can also start doing things like the donut chart. Oops, that was not what I wanted. So I'll actually place that donut chart. Let's go make it right here. Yeah, nice little donut chart. So for that donut chart, I'll go ahead and I'm going to search in, let's put in like what the installation status. So here, so I'll drag that over into the legend field. I'll then drag that over into my values field. And so now this actually gives me a little bit of interoperability. So if I click on, for example, let's go my not found items, you'll see those items will not highlight in the 3D viewer right there. Same if I go for my installed ones. So the report is fully connected back and forth, making it interactive. So in addition, we got the donut chart, we got our 3D viewer. If we want to build in the item table, super easy to do that. Click on my table field right here. I can expand this out, and then I choose what data I want to load in. So we can do like element name, like this, and we'll go grab some of the Verity stuff. So let's go like, let's go Verity. Or let's go installation status. We'll have like that one. We'll do conformance tolerance. And then we can add in some translation values. So we'll do like the total translation. And I also throw in, let's just do like the notes field too. I don't think I got anything, but again, super easy to build my report. And again, with the report, all of it's interactive. So if I start clicking on things, basically it'll kind of link everything and take me to. Just to make things a little bit easier as I go through and kind of do my reports and build it out. One of the other key ones that I also like to highlight is the button slicers. So I'll add a button slicer right here. And so one of the key ones I always want to show is like, let's do like installation statuses. So I can do like that. So now, this always takes me a bit of a second to, yeah. So now if I want to see like my installed elements, it becomes really easy where I just click on installed and then I'll highlight everything. Same with the not founds, the occluded. So it makes it really easy using my little button slicer where I can go through and quickly navigate and kind of view things in my report. The other advantage and one of the really big highlights about Power BI is it also offers mobile support. So if I come over here into my view tab, I can actually check and build out a mobile layout. So we're just going to use the auto create functionality real quick. And then you can see right there, I have my little report, my donut, as well as my installation statuses or my button slicer all ready to go, basically showing me how it'd look like on a mobile layout. So this is one of the really interesting things that we want to highlight, even though this is not, say, developed by, this is an Autodesk tool that has a lot of great synergy with Verity, and one of the most powerful tools for kind of building these interactive dashboards. I mean, doing what I just did, you guys saw it live, that took all of, 3-4 minutes to build out something like this. And to people who are experienced in Power BI, this is something we can then share and distribute, kind of link it in to create interactive dashboards, again, using the Verity results as well as the Power BI connector. So something I really want to show, get it out there, because I think this has a lot of synergy and again, opens up a lot of really cool workflows for building out the reports. I guess, Jordan, any questions or, any, I think you've been on some calls where I've shown this to people, but any thoughts on this? Good. Am I muted or are you muted?
I was muted. I was just saying that it's very cool. I'm a little bit of a data nerd, so this is fun in that direction, and another good way to make Verity information more digestible and more relevant.
Yep. So those who are also looking for another tool, this is also another key one I'm excited for, and this is Collage Web. So Collage Web, or kind of a little fact about ClearEdge is, ClearEdge, we are a, what is the proper terminology here? Topcon is our parent company. So that actually opens up some really cool, interesting things as far as kind of working with them. One of the key ones is the new Collage Web ecosystem. So Collage Web is meant to be kind of like a primary distribution hub that people can load point cloud data into. They can work with it and then send out those results using the Collage Web desktop connector app to basically bring down like the recap project for this point cloud as recap projects into say Revit, Navisworks, wherever you would like. Another key thing about Collage Web is in addition to being able to load in the point cloud data, you can also load in the model geometry. So what this allows me to do is I can basically come in, load in my point cloud. You can see it going there. I'll turn that off actually. Load in my color-coded geometry. So this is the FBX export from Navisworks. Drop that in. I can create little annotations like this. And again, this allows me to create a shareable link. Another really cool thing I can do is with that point cloud support is the smart points. So smart points inside of Verity is actually a heat map export. So this is a way, in this case, this is, I think, what, a 3-centimeter heat map showing how the point cloud data deviates from my design model. Again, I can load this all into the Collage Web ecosystem with my supporting geometry, create annotations, and then create a shareable link that works not just on the desktop, but also works with mobile applications. So Collage Web also offers another avenue for building out kind of these little interactive web reports to basically work with inside using the Verity application. So this is one of the fun ones. Basically, again, it answers kind of one of the more Excel spreadsheets are nice, but again, having interactive reports, that's one of the ones that can really help with project teams for, especially if people aren't too, I guess you could say maybe 3D savvy, can help kind of visualizing stuff when they can just orbit around. So, Jordan, any thoughts on that?
No, again, just very cool. A nice point of additional synergy between TopCon systems and our products.
Yep. And so to that end, I think let's go ahead and pop out. Q&A. So Q&A session will take kind of about the last couple minutes here. So a couple ones that here I'll go ahead and ask a couple questions, and some of these are the most common ones. So Jordan, for Verity, how much coverage do items need inside of Verity to get good results?
Great question. The technical answer is very little. Technically speaking, the algorithm inside of Verity is looking for, at minimum, 800 points on an object surface. So you can see where for something like a steel beam or a wall or a pipe, 800 points is very few. But for something as small as a nut or a bolt, and we start talking about needing at least 800 points on a sparse scan for something like that, that's where using the right scanner comes in. But technically speaking, 800 points is the minimum on an object surface. Of course, the more of the surface that you have covered, not the more points you have, but the more of the object surface that the scan can see, the better for Verity. But a very low minimum as far as number of points that show us where that object is. It also gives you that freedom to decimate, because decimation is programmatic in eliminating points in a way that does not eliminate too much data in one specific spot. Again, that's why that decimation is a great option, because we need only 800 points on an object surface to be able to say that that object is installed or not.
Perfect. Next question. How many items would you recommend I load into Verity at a time?
Yep, so this is definitely a very, our very common answer is it depends, right? It depends on what you're going to need to report on for this project to your client or to your subcontractors. It depends on what you as the Verity reviewer can reasonably digest to verify the results. We do have users that analyze in a single analysis tens of thousands of items. That may mean that that's several days of review work on that one analysis from there, but that works totally fine if you have a long-term project. You have the the computer processing time and allowance for collecting all of the scan information, all of the model information, and comparing all of them at once. If you have time to do that and that's the way you want to do it, you can. But again, a lot of times the verification workflow needs to be a lot more agile. It needs to be responsive. If you have somebody going out to scan, the east wing of level 2 today, have somebody come back into the office tonight or tomorrow morning, process that level 2 east wing and analyze those objects in Verity, because that's the freshest set of objects that we need to compare. That's the fresh scan data. That's the most recent work to that spot in the site. That's another good way to sort of break something up. So again, it totally depends on your project needs, what you feel like you can review accurately without fatigue. But a couple hundred to a couple thousand as far as resource usage, not a problem at all. It's not going to take very much time, particularly if you use that unified workflow and have that faster algorithm to work with on that side.
Excellent. So we got one question, which is, let's see, I think this is from the table after the analysis, where is the exact XYZ position of the element located? So you can actually find that information over on the right-hand side of the table. It gives you the XYZ of the keyword centroid of that element. Another key thing is actually, Jordan, you mind talking a little bit about kind of working like some of the import export, the inspection mode, as well as the match view frame functionality, and how that can help kind of find elements?
Yeah, so the XYZ coordinates, like Trevor mentioned, those are listed at the far right hand of your Verity item table. And these can, depending on the coordinates set up in your Revit project, those could look different from the coordinates that you're seeing in the model space if you spot coordinate, just as a heads up there. But like Trevor mentioned, the flexibility or the ease of finding these objects is going to be, if you're inside the Verity analysis, set up the view matching. Set Verity to match your Verity view to auto zoom and go create a section box around your selected object. That makes it very easy to get model context and point cloud context in that area in your host model. The other option, again, brand new option, is going to be that field report. Not only does the field report show you that object in a greater model context in the screenshots, you have a good view of where that object is in relation to others, but it is also giving you that closest grid line intersection so that you can get right to that object. Same thing for model navigation, though. Even if you're not on site, you're not looking at the grid lines necessarily. Not only do you have those view matching options, but all of the Verity report options, the field report included, as well as your item reports, those are including all of the host element IDs as well. So Revit objects will list a Revit element ID, Navisworks items will list the Navisworks item GUID. We have those IFC IDs listed on the field reports. All of those can actually also be utilized in the Revit search function or the Navisworks find items function. Somebody could simply copy and paste that ID to be zoomed straight to that object in the model space. So a couple of different options in addition to the Verity table listing the coordinate XYZ at the far right of the table.
Perfect. I think with that, looks like we're ever so slightly out of time. If there's any other questions or anything, feel free to reach out to us over at ClearEdge. Both Jordan and myself, we have a wonderful team. Always more than happy to answer questions about best practices, all that. So again, don't be strangers. Feel free to reach out. Also with any product suggestions. The Verity field reports are one that came out from you guys as far as our users go. So we always want to hear more about how we can make the software better. To get you guys using it to really provide tools that the industry sees value in. So with that, thank you everyone for joining us for today's webinar. Have a wonderful rest of the day and happy modeling.